Hey, what's up everybody? Hammerheart Metal Reviews here once again. Today we are doing my top 10 albums of 2022. This is part 5 in my 5-part series where I've been counting down my top 50 metal albums of the year. And now we are down to the best of the best, my 10 favorite albums that were released this year. Wow, absolutely crazy to get down to 10 here. This is very tough. Stuff that I've had on my other lists this week some of them could have snuck in here, but these are just the albums I find myself going back to the most, or that I have scored the highest out of 10 as I've done reviews of them. But yeah, these are just my thoughts and opinions like usual, and as usual, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Give me your top 10 of the year. Let me know what you think of these 10 picks. Let's get some conversations going. Give me some new stuff to check out. And without further ado, let's go. Top 10. Coming in 10th place, just cracking this list, I'm going with Gudsforladt and their album Friendship, Love, and War. This was released September 9th, 2022. This is a one-man band, black metal from the USA, and this is very unique stuff. It's epic, triumphant, folky, raw, melodic black metal. All of those words together really creates this unique package and a unique sound. The riffs are really what are the shining star here. They are insanely good. It's got these really raw vocals and lo-fi production, which maybe could hold it back a little bit, but it really works well. That's obviously the sound he was going for here. And there's just so much melody throughout, and these songs are so unique. The song constructions and just the riff patterns with this raw black metal approach, but at the same time so folky and melodic. This is the kind of black metal where you want a sword in your hand, where you're going to go slash through the battlefields and just raise your fist in victory. It is just so good. Favorite tracks on here, The Tower of the Moon, Heads Bound in Silent Prayer. Like, this is probably a bit of a hidden gem. It probably doesn't get as much fanfare as some of the other bigger name bands, but definitely worth checking out. Just cracking my top 10 in 10th place. Up next at number 9, I am going with Marrasmieli and their album Martaiden Mailta, which was released April 8th. So this is some Finnish black metal. There is a lot to their sound. There's tons of variation between song to song. They bring in so much atmosphere. You could call this like atmospheric black metal. There's folky segments as well, but it's just full of great black metal riffs. It's really got the pagan atmosphere and vibes down. And like I said, there's so much variation from song to song. Like, there's a song or a segment in a song that might remind me of a band like Saor. Then there's riffs that remind me of Have a Crooner. And then the overall vibe might remind me of Moon Sorrow. But they really do their own unique take on all these different influences to combine to their own unique sound. They bring in accordion in parts. There's acoustic guitars. There's symphonics to help create this great atmosphere. There's chanting to go along with the harsh black metal vocals. Like, they do sprinkle in some cleans as well. Just all in all, from song to song, it varies in style, but it still sounds cohesive, and it is just super well done stuff. Finnish black metal at its finest here. Favorite tracks, Ghosts of Future and Past, The Oaks of England. All in all, absolutely amazing album in 9th place. Up next at number 8, I am going with Ancient Mastery and their album Chapter 2, The Resistance. So this album actually just came out December 2nd, so this is a very recent one. Maybe this is some recency bias that I'm putting it this high on my list, but since this has come out, I cannot stop listening to it, and I felt like it deserved a spot in my top 10. This is a one-man epic black metal band from Austria. But when I say black metal, let's use that term a little loosely here. If you go into this album just expecting it to be epic black metal, you might be in for a bit of a surprise, and you might be a little disappointed because there's other stuff going on here as well. This really has injected their sound with a big power metal influence. This is almost like power metal through a black metal lens, or black metal through a power metal lens, however you want to think about that. But it's symphonic power metal with black metal vocals. But the riffing is so melodic. It's got like Maiden-esque twin guitar harmonies and melodies. There are female vocals interspersed here and there, like clean vocals where the music will kind of slow down with just some acoustic guitar strumming going on. And it almost brings you to, like, you'll feel like you're in a medieval tavern and the tavern wench is regaling you with these tales, and it really helps set up the whole story. Like, this is a concept album, takes place in his fictional world that he has created, and this sounds like if Rhapsody went black metal. Like, it's got the storytelling of an album like that Rhapsody would do with power metal riffs, but then with the black metal vocals and some black metal riffing and all the overarching symphonics and backing tracks. It just really works to create something unique and truly engaging. I know maybe the female vocals will hold some people back because it might be overused slightly. It could probably scale it back a little bit. But nonetheless, this unique take on like symphonic power metal with black metal, the combination of those two together, you don't hear it too often, and you definitely don't hear it done this well too often. Favorite tracks on here, Entering Valdura. The Uprising has such a great guitar melody in there as well. So, like, I would say, even if you're not a fan of black metal, go check this album out because the guitar work will really impress you and the songwriting and storytelling as a whole. But if you're into power metal and black metal, definitely go listen to this album because it might just blow your socks off. Go check it out. All right, moving this right along. Up next at number 7, I'm going with Drudkh and their album All Belong to the Night. This was released November 11th. A band that doesn't really need an introduction here. Ukrainian atmospheric black metal legends, just back at it. Flawless discography. They never disappoint, and this album is definitely not an exception to that rule. There's only 4 tracks here, but it is 46 minutes long, so definitely songs on the lengthier side, but every single song here really hits the mark. There is variation from song to song as well, but there's so much emotion on this album. You can hear the anguish and sorrow in the vocals and in the guitar riffs, but there's still this hopeful beauty to it as well, and it feels really triumphant. This is a great album to listen to get through some tough times and maybe see some light at the end of the tunnel. It is just so well done. Honestly, one of my favorite bands for a reason, so I'm probably a bit biased, but nonetheless, this album really delivers exactly what I want from a Drudkh album. No one does it better in this style. If I had to pick favorite songs, I mean, all 4 songs here are amazing, but the Nocturnal one and Windmills are probably my 2 standout tracks, my 2 favorites on the album, but the whole thing is great. Definitely go listen to it if you have not heard it. All right. Here on out, 6 more albums to go. These are the only 6 albums of the year that I scored 9 out of 10 or higher. Maybe some of them initially I scored slightly under 9, but they've grown on me more in time. But yeah, I don't hand out too many 9 out of 10s on my rating scale, but these next 6 albums are worthy of it. My 6 favorites of the year. So coming in 6th place, I'm going with Nechochwen and their album Kanawha Black. This was released May 13th. This is some folky black metal mixed with neo-folk, indigenous themes throughout, and lyric concepts. My introduction to this band was on their previous album, Heart of Akamon, from 2015, and that was absolutely an amazing album, mixing the neo-folk in with black metal. It blew me away, and this album honestly might even top it. It's got these great folky parts, but then mixed with this aggressive black metal to really create a unique sound for them. Their excellent songwriting is on display throughout this whole album. So much variation. You've got clean vocals added in parts to give it this extra dimension. That's actually their drummer, Andrew DeCagnia, does some clean vocals in parts. He is from Iron Flame, so if you know that band, you know what he's bringing to the table. But then the main band leader as well does his raspy black metal vocals and also throws in some clean chanting as well. It's just so well done. You've got a song like I Can Die But Once, which is really like a folk song. There's not really that much metal going on. And then you've got a song like Kanawha Black, which is a great black metal song that still features some different segments. Almost reminds me of Borknagar in parts. And yeah, so much variation throughout this whole album, but every song hits the mark. Absolutely love it. Just missed out on my top 5, but could easily be in there on any given day. Definitely go check out Kanawha Black if you have not heard this album. All right, we're now into my top 5. This is where it gets even juicier. My 5 favorite albums of 2022. Coming in 5th place, I'm going with Riot City and the album Electric Elite. This was released October 14th. This is some traditional heavy metal mixed with speed metal from Calgary, Alberta, up here in Canada. So their debut album, Burn the Night, from 2019 was pure Judas Priest worship, but in the best way. It was just so awesome. And this album really builds on that template, but improves upon it and expands their sound a little bit. They've brought in a new vocalist who has super impressive range. Maybe it's a little over the top, the approach here, but I absolutely love it. And along with their Judas Priest worship, they've now injected their sound with this influence of like progressive metal from the 80s as well, with bands like Crimson Glory and Queensryche. I hear some influence of that in certain parts here as well. But this album from front to back is just pure like 80s inspired heavy metal, such a throwback sound, but it's executed so flawlessly. Absolutely love it. And they showcase that they have the skills to play a shredding track like an absolute ripper, but then they also excel in a mid-paced song and even some slower stuff as well. Like all the variation, and they succeed at all of it. Front to back, amazing, super fun, enjoyable album. Favorite tracks on here: Eye of the Jaguar, Tyrant, Ghost of Reality, but really this whole album slays. Easy choice for my top 5. Up next at number 4, one of my all-time favorite bands, Saor, with their album Origins. This came out June 24th. This is some atmospheric black metal mixed with folk metal from Scotland. Another one-man band. He does bring in some guest performers as well. Andy Marshall, the man behind the band, musical genius. I absolutely love everything this band has ever done. Really has their own unique sound. This giant wall of sound that transports you to the Scottish landscapes. It brings in like Scottish folk instrumentation with flutes and wind instruments, bagpipes, and just everything creates this perfect atmosphere. It really knows how to combine the folk instrumentation with this atmosphere to create something truly unique and truly enjoyable. This time around on their album, I do find that there's more of a like traditional heavy metal influence here as well. This is probably their most riff-based album, where some other albums have focused more on the atmosphere. Here he's really focusing on the riffs. The atmosphere is still there, and it really works well. I really enjoy this album, and the switch in direction a little bit really works. This is just a band that never disappoints. Another one that, like, flawless discography for sure. And if there's any band that can transport you to their homeland better than this, I've yet to find them. You close your eyes and you're just in Scotland. It's absolutely amazing. Favorite tracks on here: Aurora, Origins, Beyond the Wall. But there's no misses on this whole album, front to back. Absolutely amazing. Easy choice for my top 5. All right, up next at number 3. Speaking of my all-time favorite bands, let's go with possibly my all-time favorite band, Blind Guardian, and their new album, The God Machine. This was released September 2nd. Of course, German power metal legends. In my opinion, the best power metal band out there, and one of just the best bands out there, regardless of genre. This is probably their fastest, heaviest album in quite some time. But that being said, there's still lots of variation here too. While they have the old school speedy tracks with their throwback sound, there's still a few more like expansive, orchestrated, like progressive songs throughout here as well. They've still got a ballad on here. And honestly, I love every single second of this album. When I first heard it and did a review, there was maybe a couple songs that didn't stand out to me as much, but over time they have grown on me even more. And honestly, this stacks up as one of the best albums of the year easily. Hansi Kirsch sounds as good as ever. Like, they're getting older in age, but his vocals are still one of the best out there. My favorite vocalist for a reason. It's just such a powerful voice, and it really works here. The guitar work is amazing. Musicianship is really on point. The production is great. I have no complaints about this album. Blind Guardian at its finest. One of their best for sure. Best tracks on here: Violent Shadows, Blood of the Elves is amazing. Deliver Us from Evil. But really, every single song on here hits the mark. Awesome stuff in at number 3. All right, 2 more albums to go. What's it going to be? What's even better than all these albums that I just talked about? In at number 2, I'm going with Horn and the album Verzet. This came out May 16th. So if you haven't heard this before, this is a one-man band from Germany that plays pagan, folky black metal. The man behind the band, Nrath, has been at it a long time. This is another band that truly has a flawless discography. And that being said, this might just be Horn's crowning achievement. I feel like this is the culmination of his whole career, and he's really just created something so perfect here. While it is pagan black metal, he also brings in some folky instrumentation. There's mandolin on here, there's cello, there's dulcimer, and just in spots, and it works so well. This is such an engaging album throughout, and this is probably his most mature and complete album, like songwriting wise. It just really, really works. The songwriting is on full display. Like, he really knows what he's doing here, and there's so much variation. You've got a song that might remind you of Windier a little bit, then you've got maybe a folkier song. There's some songs with some interesting keyboard parts, and just all the folk instrumentation over the backdrop of pagan black metal. It just works so well. This album is so engaging and awesome. Definitely check it out if you have not heard it. Favorite tracks on here: Alpen Recorder, Off Stand, A Hill to Die On. Absolute masterpiece of an album, in at number 2. All right, so that just leaves one. My favorite album from 2022, what is it gonna be? This album came out back on March 8th. At the time, I thought this is gonna be a hard one to beat, and turns out nothing did quite top it. This is easily my most listened to album of the year, and I am talking about Véhémence with their album Ordalies. This is some epic, melodic, medieval black metal from France. It incorporates so many folk instruments into their sound. There's cello, there's flutes, there's harps, there's hurdy-gurdy, and they really have this unique like way of playing guitar. It's like these cascading melodic riffs that is so unique to them. Like, if you just played me a riff, even if it was not on one of their albums, I would be able to tell that it's this guitar player, because he is so unique with how he writes his riffs. There's just so much melody. The vocals are so unique. It's got the harsh black metal raps, maybe some like almost spoken word parts, some clean chanting. The vocalist Hydromore, one of the best out there in my opinion. Like, this album is so captivating. I never get sick of it, no matter how much I listen to it. Their previous album was from 2019, Parle Sang Verse. That was my introduction to the band, even though that was their second album. Their debut is decent, but Parle Sang Verse was absolutely amazing. I consider it a masterpiece. That was my #1 favorite album of 2019. And then now here, 4 years later, another #1 album from the same band. So that shows how much I think of this band, how talented I think they are, and how great these last couple albums have been. If I had to pick favorite tracks on here, very difficult because this whole album is amazing. But De Feu et d'Acier, Notre L'Homme Alexandre, Par le Glaive. Never mind my French pronunciation. I do not speak French. But yeah, front to back, absolutely amazing album. My favorite album from 2022. So, like I said earlier, these are just my picks, my thoughts and opinions. Give me yours down below. And until next year, Hammerheart Metal Reviews, out.